Cyril Amarchand Mangaldas presents CNBC TV 18, The Thought League Season 3, A Glorious Decade, A Century of Service.
Hello and welcome to Cyril Amarchand Mangaldas presents CNBC TV 18, The Thought League Season 3, a platform where pioneering minds come together to shape the future of law, business and society. In this episode today, we are joined by two distinguished voices in the legal and academic world. Cyril Shroff is managing partner at Cyril Amarchand Mangaldas. His long championed purpose-driven leadership, innovation and reform in India's legal ecosystem. He's also been instrumental in instituting the Center for AI and Law at Jindal Global Law School, an initiative that reflects his deep commitment to exploring the intersection of technology, regulation and justice. Alongside him is Professor Dr. C. Raj Kumar, a Rhodes Scholar and the founding Vice-Chancellor of OP Jindal Global University. Appointed at the young age of 34 when the university was established in 2009, he has since built JGU into one of India's leading universities, recognized as an institution of eminence by the Government of India and the only non-STEM institution to receive that distinction. Together, they will reflect on the rule of law and its role in India's growth story, examine the opportunities and risks of artificial intelligence in law and regulation, and of course, reimagine the future of legal education in preparing India for the global leadership it aims for. Let's begin. And we'll sort of start with focusing on the rule of law and how it's kind of sort of intertwined with India's growth ambitions. And Professor Kumar, if I can start with you, sir. So India's growth story is often described as being intertwined with the strengths of its institutions. In your view, how central is the rule of law to sustaining our economic ambitions, especially amid prevailing global and domestic uncertainties?
India, unlike many other societies, including countries in our neighborhood, but also countries around the world, very, very early on took a call that we will be establishing a constitutional democracy with strong emphasis on rule of law and democratic institutions, which will pave way for the social and economic development of the country. This was a call that was taken very early on, and the fact that we suffered from almost 200 years of colonialism, and immediately thereafter, when the Constitution was written, the people who wrote the Constitution were mindful of that. If there's one thing that the last 75 years has taught us, is that we have been able to institutionalize rule of law. We have been able to have independent institutions that are advancing the cause of rule of law. We have been able to actually recognize that the people of India are committed to the ideals of the rule of law so that they are able to see themselves to be in a fair and a justice-oriented system. This inevitably impacts the kind of economy that we want to build, because we know for sure that economic development through the role of companies, corporations, business enterprises is possible only when they have trust in the investment, faith in the ability of systems and institutions that will protect their investments, and in case of any disputes or problems, there are mechanisms that can solve or address those problems. That's why rule of law is the foundation for all economic development.
Mr. Shroff, you and I have spoken about this in the past as well, but if you want to sort of supplement some of what the professor said.
So I agree 100% with what he just said. I think the rule of law is almost like a civilizational foundation, and I think India is well positioned on this. Sort of fast forwarding to the present, I think in the time of such enormous geopolitical risk and uncertainty, I think the fact that we have a functioning rule of law is actually a great advantage and an opportunity. I think there was a World Bank report, I think, that with reference to India, which said that because of some of our problems on enforcement of contracts and the sluggishness of the dispute system, we lose about 1 to 2% of GDP every year just simply because of that. And it comes both in a direct way as well as in an indirect way. The direct way is pretty obvious. Namely that the reputation of being a very slow dispute resolution system hurts us. I think there is a risk premium that gets attached to it when investment is being made, which you don't see directly, but that gets priced into whether it's foreign investment or domestic investment as well. The risk committee or the investment committee of whether it's an Indian or a foreign multinational will add 1 or 2% for that as well. So just think about it like this: that if we were to fix this problem and reinforce and strengthen the rule of law, we would just straight get a 2% GDP upside without doing anything else. So it's like a massive hidden tax on our economy.
Professor Kumar, on that point, right? We see so many companies when deals are done in terms of jurisdiction where any future disputes will settle. People prefer, places like Singapore outside the country in many cases. That is one of the ways which Mr. Shroff also highlighted. India kind of sort of loses out. I mean, in your experience, how big a loss is it? Mr. Shroff put some numbers to it, quoting that study, but your own thoughts on this.
So, I think Cyril has quite rightly pointed out the financial adverse impact that India has, but also there is an opportunity cost involved because most of the time, the decision to be invested in a particular country or society will also depend upon the kind of protection and mechanisms that will involve. And many a time, companies and even significant investments into a country will also depend upon that. It's not only the fact that we need to protect and have generate faith and instill a deep sense of rule of law within the society, but also we need to create mechanisms that are strong and efficient and robust and independent, so that the investors have faith and trust in the institutional processes that are involved. We need to recognize that if we have to achieve the kind of growth rate and the kind of aspirations that we have for our economic development, and also a stronger and expanded level of foreign investment, we need to address this challenge at both levels. One, to create an ecosystem, an environment where people faith and trust the legal framework and the legal system to protect the contractual obligations. And second, in the event of disputes, there ought to be a mechanism, a transparent way of addressing those issues as well.
What specific reforms, and that's well put, Professor Kumar, but what specific reforms or safeguards do both of you believe are most urgent for reinforcing exactly what both of you mentioned? Mr. Shroff, let me start with you.
Sure. I think, Raj invoked the Constitution. So I would start there. I think we need to bring in some of our constitutional values into the private law sphere as well. For example, transparency, good governance, fairness, lack of bias. These are, deep constitutional principles, and I think they have a big role to play even in the private domain. Then in terms of 3 specific steps, I would say, firstly, judicial reforms. I think we need expansion of capacity. I think we need to have an economic impact assessment. For example, the 2G judgment or the mining case as well. These are deeply impactful decisions which come, and I think they kind of disrupt the faith in the sort of commercial legal system for decades. There is a theory that the judiciary should probably more as a matter of self-evaluation do an economic impact assessment of some of their major decisions. So I think that would be point number 1. The second I would think of is more like a process engineering. A lot of the delays that we talk about are because of inefficient processes. And there's 2 parts to it. I think technology is going to play a role, but I think there are 2 parts. One is the administrative part, and then is the sovereign judicial function. The administrative and the process parts can be easily simplified by the use of technology. And the third part, I would say, is simplification of laws. I don't think we get first prize on the quality of the drafting that we do in terms of whether it's legislation or whether it's delegated legislation in the form of rules and other. Half the problems are caused because of sloppy drafting. Because the intent and the words don't kind of add up as well. So if we can make improvements on all of this, and then the fourth one as a bonus point I would add is, I think there are reforms that are required on the professional side as well. That is already on the way. I think there is a committee that is looking at it from the point of view of opening up of the legal market as well. So all of this added together will mean a lot.
No, I think that's really a roadmap for what needs to be done, fixed, whatever you want to call it. Professor Kumar, same question to you briefly, if you can sort of,
Yes.
yeah.
First of all, it's absolutely important for us to instill a very significant faith in the investor that there will be some degree of policy coherence and policy predictability when they are in the process of investing. One of the things that we have seen is that frequent change in regulations and unpredictability in those regulations is actually a huge put off for potential investors, and that's something which we should do first. Secondly, our regulatory bodies need to have a better understanding and appreciation of the implications of investment decisions. Many a time, regulatory bodies tend to look at these issues from a certain prism, and I think there also we need to have build greater awareness. The third and very obvious thing is that when we build capacity within our existing institutions, be it our courts, and Cyril mentioned about judgments. If you look at all these judgments, including the coal block judgments, one of the things that we have seen is that there is at times, retrospective understanding of certain things, and courts tend to not fully appreciate the economic consequences of their decisions. We really need to do a lot more law and economic analysis, something that we don't do enough of it. And that is something that the courts ought to do. When it comes to legislative interventions, I would like to see a lot more consultation with the industry. When we end up having laws end up being passed without actually having a broader consultation, especially on the constituency among which it is going to have an impact. And if you do these things for a period of time, we will end up addressing some of the issues that we are talking about.
I think good roadmap for policymakers to listen to and perhaps work on some of these points as well. We have to take a quick commercial break, gentlemen. We'll come back. We'll talk about AI, right? I mean, it's all pervasive. How does it interact with law? What needs to be done there? And of course, legal education we'll put the spotlight there as well with both of you. Stay tuned. Coming right back.
Cyril Amarchand Mangaldas presents CNBC TV 18, The Thought League Season 3, A Glorious Decade, A Century of Service. Cyril Amarchand Mangaldas presents CNBC TV 18, The Thought League Season 3, A Glorious Decade, A Century of Service.
Welcome back to Cyril Amarchand Mangaldas presents CNBC TV 18, The Thought League Season 3. We're in conversation with Cyril Shroff and Professor Dr. C. Raj Kumar, the founding Vice-Chancellor of OP Jindal University. We've been discussing, of course, what needs to be done with regards to law and fixing some of the things to propel India's economic ambitions further. Let's now talk about AI, law and regulation. Mr. Shroff, I want to start with you. With the establishment of the Cyril Shroff Center on AI and Law, what do you see as the most pressing regulatory questions India faces in governing AI responsibly?
So, AI is such a big topic, and I think we are at the foothills of the journey ahead. There's just so much to be done, not only on lawmaking, but also, creating the right culture, the right ethics about it, because AI is evolving much faster than the human ability to think of the consequences of it. And I think there needs to be a dedicated, center where this can be thought about and planned, and what we sort of do is make choices over there. So that was part of the rationale for setting up the center at the Jindal University. Now, on a deeper level, I think the philosophy was that you need what's called the triple helix model, which is there needs to be on any topic, whether it's AI or otherwise, you need a tripartite conversation. You need a tripartite conversation between the policymakers / the state, with academia, like the university, and the practitioners. And in reality, what happens is that all these conversations happen in silos. The practitioners do their own thing. The state makes the policies without talking to either of the other two. And then there is always a disconnect. And the academia are kind of usually in their own, ivory towers and doing their think they produce great research, but that kind of remains in that system. So what was the thinking behind this move was to tie all the three together. So if we could create a forum where policymakers, the academia, and the practitioners can have a conversation on something so important and transformational as AI, that it will hopefully create a resource and a framework for what is to follow. Every 3 months or 4 months, something dramatically changes in the world of AI. So the technology is always ahead of the law, and I hope that we'll be able to catch it.
Professor Kumar, how should India's approach to AI regulation balance innovation and economic opportunity with ethical safeguards and constitutional values like fairness, accountability, and transparency?
So let me first say, Prashant, that the establishment of the Cyril Shroff Center for AI Law and Regulation at Jindal Global Law School of OP Jindal Global University is a very transformative initiative for all the reasons that Cyril has just outlined. Most importantly, it gives an opportunity for an institution to have researchers and faculty members who can dive deep into understanding the legal, policy, and regulatory implications of AI as a technology. The entire global south, which is countries like India, including possibly BRICS, is a recipient of the global regulatory architecture that ends up being created mostly in the West, largely in very developed, advanced societies. This is an opportunity for us to play a leadership role, providing thought leadership in some of the most fundamental aspects of AI, especially because we know that India is going to play a leadership role in this in the years to come. The NASSCOM BCG report has projected that in the next several years, India's AI market is going to be little over $20 billion with an annual growth of 20 to 25%. The legal AI market, which is not as big as the general AI market, is already looking at $30 million, and we are looking at in 2030 to be reaching over $100 million. In a way, what I'm trying to say is that there is no better time than deep dive into these issues. We are at the center of the whole AI challenge unraveling, and law and policy will be playing a very critical role in all of this.
Absolutely. Mr. Shroff, again, something we've discussed on some of these earlier conversations on this very program, sort of risk versus reward when you use AI in the legal process, legal system. Just round up your thoughts on this.
So, like everything, AI is a double-edged weapon. I think there are many. It will change our lives in a positive way. For example, speaking of the law, I think it can play a major role in reducing judicial delays and also, making the process more efficient, improving access to justice, getting to faster outcomes, and generally, taking up quite significantly the sort of quality of a lot of the work that is done in the administration of the law and justice. Now, I think the risks are equally significant. I mean, we know of the deepfake problem. We also know that, if at some stage, if AI becomes, part of the entire kind of judicial process, what do you do with the basic notion that everybody is entitled to and has a fundamental right to a human decision? Are you going to sort of, accept sentences and judgments that are handed out by a machine? Probably not. And there would be issues of algorithmic bias. There would be issues of, plagiarism. And we've seen what happens sometimes when there is a copy-paste that is sort of done in terms of, judicial outcomes or decisions that are handed out as well. So all of those come as part of the risk package. But I think there is much more good than bad.
Professor Kumar, you've done a great job building that institution, and I think the quality of students which are coming out speak for themselves. Tell us what is being taught now and what needs to be done in the future as well. And what is the level of integration between academia and industry? So what you're taught in the classroom, how useful is it in this sort of fast evolving legal sort of landscape. So I just wanted your thoughts there. The ideal curriculum, where would you like to see the direction of legal education in the country, sir?
Thank you, Prashant. I think it's also important to mention that the foundations of Indian freedom movement were led by and made possible by lawyers. Mahatma Gandhi was a lawyer, Pandit Nehru was a lawyer, Rajendra Prasad was a lawyer, Sardar Patel was a lawyer, Dr. Ambedkar was a lawyer. In many ways, we were very fortunate that the very foundations of Indian freedom movement and our democracy was led by lawyers. But quite surprisingly and somewhat ironically, post-independent India, and for many decades, legal education did not receive the kind of attention and priority that it ought to have received. So it took a long time for us to recognize that we ought to prioritize legal education. We have come a long way from those early origins of evolutions of institutions of excellence, and that has led to what we are seeing today. So to begin with, I would say that beyond the curricular reform, the fact that we have taken legal education seriously also means that we are also recognizing the importance of law and justice in our society. Now, it's also true that whatever we teach in law schools, we need to place emphasis on three critical dimensions. One, the need for critical thinking. Second, to develop an analytical mind. And third, to be able to look at law from the standpoint of problem solving on the one hand and justice delivery on the other. These three elements will help us to develop curriculum across different areas of law, because laws will keep changing, new issues will create new laws. But if we can get the values relating to the curriculum, then we'll be better off to ensure that tomorrow's lawyers and legal professionals are better prepared to face the kind of challenges and new issues that they will be called upon to respond.
Mr. Shroff, your thoughts on this? I think the Cyril Shroff Center on AI and Law perhaps is doing some of what I said, which is bridging the gap between academia and the practice of law in the real world. But do you think there's enough happening? And just sort of, if you want to add to what we heard from the professor.
Yeah, I'll be brief. I think two things. We have to be very careful that we are not designing curriculums and the academic grounding for yesterday's world. I think we have to make sure that we are designing for the future. And I think that's the transition that has to happen, and it has started happening as well. That's a case on point is that I think tomorrow's lawyers will have to be tech savvy, and I think they will need to use artificial intelligence with great fluency. Personally, I don't believe that technology or AI is going to replace lawyers. I think what is going to be replaced is the lawyer who doesn't know how to use AI or cannot use it efficiently enough. So the AI-enabled lawyer is going to win. You have the constant need for access to justice as well. There is a great scope for human judgment as well. But I think if we can find the right way through the education system, starting at the ground, to integrate technology into the thinking, I think that would be my version of the new curriculum, apart from everything else that the professor said.
I think we covered some really good ground and some great points from both of you. Really insightful to hear from the both of you on this topic. And I think we'll have more of these conversations. These conversations are very much needed. Professor Kumar, Mr. Shroff, thank you both for joining us here on this edition of the Thought League. A big thank you to the both of you. Well, perspectives that remind us that the strength of India's institutions, the responsible governance of technology, and the vision for future-ready legal education are deeply entwined with India's growth ambitions. Thank you for joining us. Stay tuned for more conversations with leaders who are shaping the future.
Cyril Amarchand Mangaldas presents CNBC TV 18, The Thought League Season 3, A Glorious Decade, A Century of Service.